Back for another edition of In the Huddle, guys. Carl Dukes put them up along with my man Brian Baldinger. Jason Canfora, part of this podcast as well. It's time to crush it, Baldy. It is go time. The season is here. Next Thursday, we're talking about real football. We're talking about games that count. We're talking about the starters playing. All that stuff with the preseason is behind us. So I do want to get your take on this first game as we get into some of the other things we're going to talk about today. Because next Thursday, it seems like a long way away, man, but we'll turn through the weekend, Labor Day, and all of a sudden we've got football with a big game for two teams that are both, I think, interesting. Baldy, obviously the Chiefs coming off the Super Bowl. I don't think there's any fall off, guys. You know, Baldy and I, we did a division preview a couple of weeks back. We both had the Chiefs winning that division again. I don't think a lot changes, but in the kickoff game, they face a team that was scoring a lot of points last year, Baldy, in the Detroit Lions.
Well, it was a bold move by the NFL to put the Detroit Lions up against the world champions in Kansas City. Week one, we're going to find out a lot about both teams. The Chiefs are going and gunning for their 8th straight division titles. They've owned the AFC West. I don't think that's going to change. We will get to Chris Jones and what his stance is right now. But he saw a whole bunch of defensive tackles get paid in this business, and he's trying to strike when the iron is hot. But, you know, Detroit really didn't play their starters in the preseason. They played a lot of young defensive players trying to improve. You know, you saw Jack Campbell out there at middle linebacker, James Houston at pass rusher. But they really didn't play their players, Jared Goff and Jahmyr Gibbs and, you know, Amon-Ra St. Brown. We really didn't see a lot of the offensive line. They scrimmaged a bunch in the preseason. So they're going to kind of unveil who they are next Thursday night, you know, at 8 o'clock. And so we'll find out a lot. But I do think their offense is very talented. I do think they could do a lot of things. I mean, if you want to do something to Kansas City to try to help your cause, run the ball against them and keep Patrick Mahomes on the sideline. It's the old play keep away. And you can do that as long as you keep the score close. You know, if Kansas City jumps out, first two drives, it's 14-0. That kind of goes out the door. So I do think that it has a lot of intrigue. We're all going to be excited. But Detroit's got to show us something defensively that they didn't show us last year. They got better as the season went on, Carl. They did improve. But it's got to be, you know, they got a lot of new pieces, new corners and new defensive tackles and new linebacking core. Like, they got to show us that they can put it all together and play at a high level against a quarterback that doesn't seem to be bothered by very much in this business, talking about Patrick Mahomes.
How do they justify the Jahmyr Gibbs pick? Listen, everybody was talking about taking running backs was a mistake. We know the Falcons took Bijan Robinson, and then at pick 12, Jahmyr Gibbs goes off the board. At the time, Baldy, I thought it was a reach, okay? I thought that pick for the Lions was not necessary, okay? But then they make the deal, and you know, they trade away a couple of running backs, move on from one at least. How do they justify that? Does he have to see a certain amount of not only snaps, but plays to say, hey, we took this kid in the first round at a running back position, which has been devalued. Now, how do you justify it?
Well, he's got to be really productive, Carl. You know, I mean, they also signed David Montgomery. They basically changed the whole running back room. Remember, DeAndre Swift, who was their starter, is in Philadelphia, and Jamal Williams is gone. And so, who scored 15 touchdowns last year or some crazy number. They had a good 1-2 punch last year. And they said, well, we've watched David Montgomery when we play Chicago, and we can't tackle him. In fact, not many people can tackle him. And so, you know, you looked at it and you go, okay, Dan Campbell says, I want that kind of player on my team. He might start, but he's coming off a major injury. All systems are go right now. But Jahmyr Gibbs has got to be – he's got to win in the passing game, whether it's check down screens. You know, he's got to win in the passing game, and then he's got to be explosive in the run game. And he's got to get you some explosive runs. And so it's a brand new 1-2 punch behind a really talented offensive line. And so it's all about production, Carl. Like, he's got to be out there, and it's not just 100-yard games because they're going to split the carries, but it's got to be those type of runs where you go, man, this guy he's something special. Now, I talked to Barry Sanders about him, and he liked his talent. That's Barry, and you know, I mean, Barry's not there every day in Detroit, but he liked what he had seen. He liked the pick. That doesn't mean it's the right pick at all. It's just, the most famous player ever is kind of defending the pick. But you're right. They could have easily, with that 12th pick, Carl, gone and got themselves a defensive stud, another pass rusher, corner. Like, they could have gotten themselves a great player at 12 defensively and really helped that team. But they said, no, this is how they want to win games. So you get the running back on a rookie contract. It's not going to be prohibitive for anything else that you want to do. He just has to be really productive.
As we talk about the week 1 matchup, guys, the kickoff game on Thursday, Kansas City taking on the Lions. I just want to briefly talk about Kansas City for a second, and then Baldy will move on. It's in the Huddle, guys. Subscribe, like us. Make sure you tell your friends about us. Baldy's breakdowns, he'll be doing stuff all year long throughout the course of the season. Make sure you check that out. And then we'll be taking your questions as well as we move forward through the season. More interaction on this podcast as we continue to move forward as the season gets underway. We all talk about Patrick Mahomes, but I just want to talk about the other pieces real quick, Baldy. Pacheco, Kadarius Toney, I know he's questionable and coming off of that injury and surgery, I believe. Scantling, Sky Moore. All these guys have been productive. So you move on from the Cheetah, and they go back and win the Super Bowl last year. And I know everybody wants to just say, well, they've got Patrick Mahomes. But these young guys have stepped up. And I think in year 2 for a lot of these guys, and even on the defense, Baldy, they're going to be better, which is why I don't think Kansas City is going anywhere.
Well, you also have to mention Rashee Rice, their second-round pick from SMU, who's had a good summer. Heck, he was working out with Patrick Mahomes in Dallas before the draft even took place. So I'm sure Patrick is like, if you want to take Rashee Rice, I'm just telling you, the guy knows how to get open. So, but, they played 6 rookies last year, and they started 3, and you look at, Trent McDuffie and, Watson and some of these guys that played, and you go, like, they found good players, and then they coached them up, and they figured out a way to use them, and they were really important in the preseason. The one change that's been made in Kansas City is both starting tackles are gone from a year ago. So Andrew Wiley, the right tackle, Orlando Brown Jr., the left tackle, they're gone, replaced by Donovan Smith, who has been a good pro. He was banged up and played hurt all year last year, and it showed. And then Juwan Taylor, who was a high-priced free agent, who basically never missed a game at Jacksonville for 4 years. So they've got 2 new tackles, and it looks like they're ready to all systems go. The interior is so solid. Creed Humphrey and, Trey Smith and all the guys inside. I think they're going to be really, really good. I think they're going to be able to do just about whatever they want to do. I just remember talking to Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith in the offseason. Andy Reid came in at halftime of that Super Bowl game. They're down 24-14. They're down 10 points. And so, they're thinking, okay, here we go, coming out of the tunnel, going to start throwing it all over the yard. Andy Reid came in there at halftime and said, we're running the ball right down their throats. We're not even going to fool around. Like, let's just go win the line of scrimmage. And he gave them the ultimatum. You want to run the ball? We're going to do it right now. They ran the ball right down the Eagles' throats to start in that third quarter and took the opening drive for a touchdown, got right back in the game. So you look at what they're capable of doing. They're capable of doing anything they want to do, Carl. I saw a quote from Andy Reid in practice the other day, like, this stuff gets out. But he's like, you want to be average, keep practicing like you're practicing. You want to be great, let's step it up. Like, it's just, that doesn't flip a switch sometimes, but it's coming from Andy Reid. And so he's letting them know it's not good enough what you're doing out here today. So let's change it. They got great coaching. They got great coaching on both sides of the ball. They're going to be the team to beat.
They are. Does the Eric Bieniemy absence hurt the Chiefs?
Well, I think, Andy, when he re-signed, when he took Matt Nagy from Chicago back, he was basically saying, look, we're going to lose Eric. We should have lost him, but let's prepare to lose him. Like he felt like he was ready to go from play design to the way that he coached to the meetings, all the stuff that Eric did. I feel like at least whether Matt Nagy can do it or not do it, he's been a head coach in this league. He's had success. He's got a team to a playoff game in Chicago. What Andy does is he develops coaches, and then he brought Spags back because he knew he was going to lose Bob Sutton. So he's always thinking ahead. That's the Bill Walsh mentality that he grew up, the Mike Holmgren mentality. start grooming coaches because you're going to lose good coaches and start getting yourself ready. And that's kind of what Andy Reid has done for the last 25 years.
Guys, you can watch us on YouTube at In the Huddle Pod. Subscribe and check out all the content there. And you can go back and check out other episodes as well. I want to read to you what Chris Ballard, the GM of the Colts, said yesterday. I want everybody to know Jonathan Taylor is a well-respected and really good human being and a damn good football player. I think we all know this, all right? Things like this happen. And I tell every rookie that comes in, there's going to be a point where we disagree, and it's usually about money. He went on to talk about, relationships are repairable. And I read that, and then I heard it. I saw the video of it. Chris Ballard said this sucks for the fans, Baldy. It sucks for the team and the players. But is this a repairable relationship? Seriously.
Well, we'll find out. John Taylor, walks into 56th Street, the practice facility there in Indianapolis, and he starts getting ready for week one, then it's repairable. If he is nowhere to be seen, it looks like it's broken. It should never have gotten out. Like the owner's the owner. I know Jimmy Irsay a long time. I played there in Indianapolis. It should never have gotten out. Like all that stuff should have been behind closed doors. It should never have been a public feud. It should have just been between Jonathan and his agent and Jim Irsay and Chris Ballard and any of the coaches. I mean, that's the only people that should have heard about any of this. But I do believe that everything is salvageable. Everything. I played there when they suspended Eric Dickerson, and it looked irreparable. It looked completely broken. And they suspended Eric for 6 games one year to start the season. Albert Bentley stepped in. He was great. But Eric Dickerson ended up carrying the football for us, and he was our starting running back when he came back. Like, it's just football. Like, Jonathan, you put the ball in the belly of the beast here, let him go run. Like, go in by the way, go run behind number 56, Quentin Nelson.
Yeah.
Like, he's your ticket. So I think it's all repairable. I've seen these things, and we've all seen them. And then next thing you know, there's Jonathan Taylor in the uniform where he belongs. And because I don't think there's an option out there. They're not going to get a first-round pick. No. Like, they dangled him out there. Like, everybody's right now, we talk about Detroit, Kansas City a week away. Like, nobody's saying, let's blow up what we just did all spring and all summer, and let's go upgrade right now with Jonathan Taylor. And, oh, by the way, the compensation, the money, the contract, we can do all that. They had a chance to go do it, and it's not done. So Chris Ballard is basically saying all the right things because he's been a little quiet about this, but he's saying all the right things, and he's basically saying we're a much better team with our young rookie quarterback when he can hand off to the J train.
Baldy, he's back. I'm talking about Joe Burrow. He was out and has been out since July 27th. Zach Taylor has kind of kept everybody on edge with, he'll be back and when he's back and not saying anything. And now we see Joe Burrow back. The reason I say this is because if, in fact, he's healthy, we think he will be. Burrow, Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson. Baldy, that division is unbelievable. When you talk about the quarterback play, I think, again, everybody's discounting what Deshaun can be, and we know what he was. We know what Burrow is. I think Kenny Pickett in year 2 takes the step. I really do. I like what I saw in the preseason. I like the way Tomlin has approached him as far as the development and what he's put on his shoulders. Baldy, this division is going to be a monster.
Yeah, well, it opens up, Cleveland and Cincinnati week 1. So Deshaun and Joe Burrow. A couple things about what you just put on my plate here, Carl. I went to Pittsburgh this year. Well, let's just talk Joe Burrow. I mean, 2 years ago, Joe Burrow's coming off an ACL, didn't play in the preseason. Last year, he had emergency appendicitis, and he missed all kinds of time. And there was Joe Burrow, back-to-back years in the AFC Championship game, Super Bowl. Like, I talked to Jamar about Joe Burrow, and he told me back in August he hopes he doesn't play week 1. Now, all he was saying was, I just want my quarterback to be 100% healthy and the calf and the injury that he had not to be any problem. And then he referenced himself. He goes, I had a bad hip. Everybody wanted me out there. I waited till my hip was healthy. When I came back, I was healthy, and I never had another problem since. And so when Jamar says he's just the adult in the room, just like Zach Taylor. Like, we'll put Joe Burrow out there when he's 100% healthy. We're going to test it every way you can test a calf muscle before we think about putting him on the field and let Myles Garrett go chase him around the yard. That's number one. So I expect him to be ready to go, but if he's not, like, it's not going to be. They want Joe Burrow ready for January. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, I go to Pittsburgh back in June this year to go see a mini camp. So they have a walkthrough in the bubble that the University of Pittsburgh and the Steelers share together. And before they went out in the field, and I went out there into the bubble, and there's Mike Tomlin coaching and Danny Smith, special teams coach. I'm not in the bubble 5 minutes, and Kenny Pickett comes running up to me, just shakes my hand, says, "Baldy, good to meet you." We're just like he does. Kenny Pickett doesn't owe me anything. He came right up to me, like he knows what's going on, like he's aware. And it said to me, like, he's in command. Like, this is what your starting quarterback can do if he wants to, if he chooses to do it. But it impressed me that he came right up, introduced himself, and then you just watched him practice, and you go, he's gotten every number one rep. He's been out there in the preseason. We think that George Pickens and him have something special going on. We keep seeing it. I was out there in training camp. This is Kenny Pickett's show. Isaac Seumalo at left guard. I think Dan Moore is going to be the starting left tackle because he earned the left tackle job.
Yeah.
They've made some trades. Like, I think they've upgraded the offensive line. Defensively, they've addressed every weakness they have. And so they're going to be a good team. I'm going to see them week 1 against San Francisco. 49ers have their hands full, period. They have their hands full. And so the division, everybody's improved to me. I think Todd Monken in Baltimore improves that team. I think Zay Flowers and OBJ improved that team. I'm a little concerned about Baltimore's defense right now. I don't see a Baltimore defense right now. Not to say that they can't become one. I don't see it right now. They've had injuries. They lack pass rush right now. I have real question marks about them defensively, whereas Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and Cleveland, I have far less questions about their defenses.
Brian Baldinger, Carl Dukes. This is In the Huddle. Our man Jason Lock-on-4, part of this podcast as well. If I give you just a few players at quarterback, I want you to tell me who you think has the most pressure as we get the season underway next week. Is it Russell Wilson? Is it Aaron Rodgers? Is it Dak Prescott? Is it Tua Tagovailoa? Is it Ryan Tannehill? Is it Baker Mayfield? Baldy, who going into the season has that kind of pressure on them where you go, if they don't get it done, they may be done?
Well, the first 4 you mentioned are, pretty good talking points right here. Because we're always going to talk about the quarterbacks. But, I would think that Aaron Rodgers in New York, I mean, look, they've done everything that he's asked them to do. There's Alan Lazard, there's Randall Cobb, and here's Dalvin Cook, just came through the doors and is practicing. Like, they said, you know what, we're gonna help you, Aaron, by even adding more pieces to our defense. We'll draft Will McDonald, and we'll have an elite defense. So we'll give you a top 5 defense. Okay. And then, we're gonna make sure that our offensive line, Mekhi Becton, Dwayne Brown, we may baby them a little bit this offseason, but we're going to get them ready for Buffalo week 1. And so here it is, Aaron. We'll give you Hard Knocks. We didn't want to do Hard Knocks, but we'll showcase you on Hard Knocks, and we'll show you what you've truly been for this organization all offseason. You've been a leader. You've shown by example. You've been up. You've committed. Like, it's all on you now.
Yeah.
And so we won't talk about being 39 and all this. Like, let's go do it. I think there's a lot of pressure on Aaron. Like, I think he welcomes it. I think he knows it. He knows the spotlight is there. We watched it all summer in Hard Knocks, 3 episodes. So 4 episodes so far. Like, we've watched it. So now it's about, okay, Buffalo Monday Night Football, in our yard. Like, let's go show the world that not just we're ready for prime time, but we're ready for a deep playoff run. Aaron wants nothing more than to get a second Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He said that when he was in Green Bay winning, MVPs. It's about Super Bowls. So let's go do it. Let's be the Matt Stafford, the Tom Brady, and let's go to this team and let's go do it. So I think there's a lot there. I think Dak Prescott, that was not ending the season the way it's ended 2 years in a row has been disappointing. To lose like they have lost the last 2 years, that's been hard to watch. So there's a lot on Dak. Tua, this offense now, Mike McDaniel. Okay, let's go do it. Let's stay healthy and let's go do it, because we know the injury history is real and it has traveled and it has followed him. Let's see if he can 10 pounds heavier, all the things he did in the offseason. Let's go do it. On and on and on. These I don't know who has it most, but it's, at the top of the list there are some of the names you just mentioned.
Baldy, I want to talk about real quick, since we've talked about Hard Knocks, and just the Aaron Rodgers perception and the reality.
Okay, good.
Perception is he's a jerk, little aloof, self-absorbed, right? Over the years, these are the things that people received about him in Green Bay. You put him on Hard Knocks, and you see how he interacts with his teammates. You see how much fun he seems to be having. And you go, hey, this dude ain't that bad, And I think sometimes as fans, right, you watch guys from afar, whether you're a fan of that team or not, and then you see the media reports and you see what happens in the media as far as what happens in a guy's life, and you go, well, Aaron Rodgers, I've always said he's the most passive-aggressive guy. I've always just wanted Aaron to say, here's what I want. Every end of the season, I'm not sure if I'm retiring. I don't know if I'm going to come back. And just tell me what you want. And I think with the Jets, the love he's gotten from the front office, and you know this, Baldy, better than anybody, you've been there numerous times, it's reciprocal. Everybody keeps saying, why is Aaron doing all this? And I keep telling everybody, because he's happy. He's getting the love from the front office and his teammates that he didn't feel like he was getting in Green Bay. Whether he was or wasn't, this is why he's responding this way. And my point is, Baldy, he's likable. He has a likable factor that I don't think a lot of NFL fans thought he did.
I think what you just said, Carl, is you're spot on. You're so perceptive in this whole situation. Then we don't really need Hard Knocks to confirm what you just said, because we saw it when he was sitting with Sauce Gardner, at a Knicks game. And
that's right.
He was enjoying, even talking about, my favorite play this summer has been Wicked. He didn't have New York City. He didn't have the restaurants. He didn't have they had good players in Green Bay. Don't get me wrong, but he's got some young superstars in Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson, and it's made him feel younger. And I just think everything we're watching is genuine. I see him talking to Peter Schrager, to Boomer Esiason. It used to be, okay, my mouthpiece is Pat McAfee, everybody else is a jerk.
Right.
And that's how we had to read him. He's only going to tell Pat McAfee, which, look, great for Pat and great for all his podcasting and everything. But I really feel even Aaron the other day, I was out there with Bill Cowher at, a scrimmage, and he's kind of just giving us the nod. I see you over there, Baldy. I see you, Bill. Thanks for coming, that kind of thing. He's likable because he's happy, Carl, period. He's happy. He's in a good spot. He's enjoying this. And now he's, the pressure, the New York Jets have got some weird things that have happened in that building over the last 50 years. And that's a lot of that stuff it's just strange. The injuries and the things that have happened, and, Belichick's hired and Belichick doesn't want the job, just things that have happened in that organization. He can kind of make these things all go away. And he doesn't care about the last 50 years. He wants to leave his mark right now. But it starts with wanting to, and I saw it because when he signed and he came out of the cave and he went to New York, I was like, okay, is he going to commit? Is he going to be there in the offseason? Well, he loved it, So I just think it's a great spot. It's a great location. He can do something in that organization that nobody else since Joe Namath has been able to do. Turn this whole thing around, make you relevant, and go win. And so you see him signing autographs to the fans, and there's just a a rejuvenated Aaron Rodgers that's been fun to watch. And I agree with you. Like, he is a whole lot more likable now, mainly because he's really happy with where he's at.
I know a few coaches on that staff, Baldy, and they have all been amazed, not not with a negative attitude going in, but just when a guy comes in, again, you don't know until you know. And everybody's been amazed that I've talked to at how cool Aaron has been and how helpful he's been. Hell, Baldy, I even think Zach Wilson has benefited from this. The way that he's going about his business.
Well, all the pressure went off Zach. Now he just gets to play, now he just gets to be the teammate right now. And he can fit in and he can watch how you lead. Because he clearly there's some of the things he said last year. He didn't know how to do any of this. Now he just gets to watch a pro go to work every day. And if Zach gets a chance, like, he'll be a much better pro than he ever could have been. But the relationship between Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron is about as real as it gets, and it's about as fun as it gets. And so that's been really helpful. Because I've said this even on this podcast. If Aaron went to New York and Nathaniel Hackett was there, it would be good. Or if Nathaniel Hackett went to New York and Aaron Rodgers went there, it would be good. It would be an upgrade. But them together is a really good team, and it's a formidable group.
Baldy, let's talk about this situation in Arizona. I think it's despicable what happened this week. Only from the standpoint, if you're going to tell your fan base, we're going to give ourselves the best chance to win, then you keep Colt McCoy for whatever he is. He is an experienced quarterback that's won a lot of games in this league and a veteran. Instead, you release him after allowing him to go through all of the offseason as your number one guy, knowing Kyler Murray wasn't going to be there. And then you decide, we'll bring in Joshua Dobbs, no disrespect, and also Clayton Tune, who we drafted in the 5th or 6th round, and we'll figure this out. What the hell is going on, Baldy? I mean, this is tanking, isn't it? I mean, what are they trying to do?
And, by the way, last week they gave away Isaiah Simmons for a 7th-round pick, and Josh Jones, who they drafted, I think, in the 2nd round as an offensive lineman who could play in this league. They gave him away. It sure looks like it's tanking. Now, Jonathan Gannon, I think he's in a tough spot because these are moves that he clearly can't be happy with.
Right.
But was this discussed during the coaching interview? Is that why nobody wanted the job? Because not every job is the right job. And if this wasn't discussed, then Jonathan Gannon's going, every day I wish I was back in Philly coaching that defense and trying to get it back to a Super Bowl. Because on the outside, it makes no sense at all.
No.
And, to the guys who I really like on that team, like Budda Baker and some guys, you just go, you can never lie to players. Players know what's going on. And so, I live in Philadelphia, which was basically the birthplace of, tanking with what the Sixers did and all the things they did to get assets, and that
Trust
guy
the process.
that all the tanking is gone.
Yeah.
It feels awfully like that, Carl. It really does.
Yeah. And listen, guys, this is the perception for us, but we're around enough people to know that these kind of things, when you start letting best players on the team go and you change the quarterback like this, there's a taint of, hey, we want to lose. Okay. We'll go out and play, but we want to lose to get that first pick. And if that's the case, here's the other part of this, Baldy. They're still on the hook for some money with Kyler Murray. I mean, even if that's if that's the dream, all right, and you say we're going to look to spring of 2024, you still have to move Kyler Murray at some point. I mean, it's a mess in my opinion to start the season.
It's a mess. To take a guy like James Conner, okay, who overcame cancer. They said he would never not just play football game, he might never live again. So, James Conner is a guy that's got perspective on all of this. But he also came from Pittsburgh, okay, where there was a certain way of doing things. And the Steelers would never do anything like this. So he grew up in a first-class organization that knew how to treat players. All right, now you go to Arizona and you're watching this whole thing just unravel and dishevel. And I'm just knowing James Conner, what kind of person he is. You just go, you want us to go lay it on the line, okay, every day, practice games, okay, and be a pro, and then you're doing this to us, and we have to watch this and endure this. What, for the opportunity to maybe draft Caleb Williams next year, whatever it might be? I don't, I mean, that's why you would potentially do this, but this it's hard to stomach, and I feel bad for the players, the true pros, Hollywood Brown, James Conner, Buddha. Like, I'm just could go through the list of guys. Like, it's hard to say, like, all right, let's get excited for week 1 right now.
All right, I want to ask you about a couple of guys that, at least right now, all right, recording this podcast, guys, we're a week out from the start of the NFL season. It doesn't look like they're going to be with their teams. And I'm talking about Chris Jones with the Chiefs, and I'm talking about Bosa with the 49ers. Bosa situation, the 49ers, Baldy came out and said, well, we have no plans to trade him. And of course they don't. They'd be idiots. But the Chris Jones situation, the general manager says, hey, I'm in contact. We're talking. But he's still not at camp, hasn't been there. And he's due to make, $20 million this year and wants a raise. Do either one of these guys end up playing in week 1? Could a deal get done and these guys are playing in week 1, or we're not going to see them until week 3 or 4?
You could make the case that both players are as valuable as any other. Now, Patrick Mahomes, so I don't want to say like he's as valuable as Patrick Mahomes.
But on the defensive side,
he's the best defensive player on the team. It's not even close. The defense looks awfully average, pedestrian, without Chris Jones in there. And that's not to knock anybody else. He's just that good, and he's been that valuable. And Nick Bosa, you can probably make the claim that he's their best player on the team and has been. And he sets for how they want to play, number one defensive football, how they want to play. He sets the tone, not just in games, but every day in practice. He makes everybody else around him better. He is one of those guys like Aaron Donald that you better strap it on. This isn't just a walkthrough. That's Nick Bosa on the other side. Like, he sets the tone. I actually think both players are going to be in the lineup week 1. Now, wow. I don't know how it gets done. Like, we still have a week away for Kansas City. We still have 10 days for San Francisco. I think Nick Bosa will be in Pittsburgh week 1. I do. The game is that big. It's that important. He's that important. I think that, you could go back and say, okay, Emmitt Smith in 1993 wasn't there the first 2 games. They're 0-2. They're coming off a Super Bowl championship. And Jerry Jones goes, okay, this is not going to go any further. Here we go, Emmitt. Like, that might happen. You might get 2 games where it's possible. Now I'm sitting on a fence here. It's possible that both teams could go, okay, let's play without him and see what happens. And, San Francisco limps back out of Pittsburgh after getting beat. And there they are 0-1, and Seattle's 1-0. And you go, I don't know, Jed. I don't know, John Lynch. We better get this thing done. Like, it might happen. My gut is that both are going to get done before the season starts.
Yeah, Jones, 4th most sacks in NFL over the past 5 seasons, 4-time All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowl. He's 29 years old, so he's in his prime. Yeah,
the other thing, though, like, both players, at least like they're doing this, they both have great leverage. Chris Jones is coming off the most dominant defensive player, interior defensive player in the league, and a Super Bowl championship. And there's 4 other defensive tackles, whether it's Deron Payne or Quentin Williams or Jeffrey Simmons, that all got paid this year. Okay, now Christian Wilkins, he's in a similar situation, I guess, in Miami, but he's not in the category of Chris Jones. And Nick Bosa is coming out the Defensive Player of the Year, and they're in an NFC Championship game. So at least they're striking when the iron's hot, and, like, they've got leverage. Like, they've got real leverage. Like, San Francisco doesn't look like the same defense without Nick Bosa in the lineup. You can talk about Drake Jackson or Cleveland Farrell or Eric Armstead, whatever you want. That's fine. They're not the same without Nick Bosa in the lineup.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's In the Huddle, guys. YouTube at In the Huddle Pod. Subscribe, like us, and don't miss an episode as we gear up for the start of the NFL season. We've got a lot to get to, a lot to talk about. Every week, Baldy will be helping us break down games, and check out Baldy's breakdowns as well. And Jason Canfora will be a part of this podcast as we'll be talking about all things NFL. Baldy, as we get ready for week one, and again, what game are you at? You're at the 49ers, Steelers?
49ers, Pittsburgh. Yep.
Okay. I know you're focused on that and you'll be at that game calling it. But what other game, when you get done, are you going to be interested in as we look at week one? Is there one game or one matchup that has jumped out at you and you said, hey, I can't wait to see how that plays out in week one? And I'll just give you mine because, to your point, obviously Detroit and Kansas City kicking things off on Thursday night. But then we get to September 10th and we got a full slate of games. And obviously we got the Monday night games as well, guys. But Baldy's game is very interesting. It's a 1:00 kick, by the way, on Sunday, the 10th, San Francisco at Pittsburgh. And then I'm curious to see what the Cowboys do against the Giants, only because if Dak Prescott wets the bed in week one, can you imagine, Baldy, what this is going to turn into? I mean, seriously, if he doesn't have a great game against the Giants and they just traded for Trey Lance, which, again, I don't think that's as big of a deal as people think because if Trey Lance is playing, the Cowboys aren't going anywhere. But what a mess this could immediately turn into if Dak throws 2 interceptions or 2 pick sixes in week one.
Well, the sky's falling in Dallas if that happens. And so, the Giants are a much improved team. They just added Isaiah Simmons and Boogie Basham in the last week. I mean, 2 young pass rushers, 2 young. I mean, one was taken in the first round, one was taken in the second round. Like for whatever reason, Buffalo, who knows? But I trust Wink Martindale in New York to take these young players and put them in good spots. They're vastly improved on both sides of the ball. So the Giants will be highly competitive. I agree. Jets Buffalo Monday Night Football, like it's a classic. But
yes,
look, the Eagles going to New England week one. Tom Brady's going to be up there at Gillette Stadium. Big ceremony going on. I believe New England's defense is for real. Like I believe they are a great defense. And so, Philadelphia, like we haven't seen Jalen Hurts in the preseason. It's fine. Nick Sirianni has his methods. I don't think New England's offense is all that. They don't look very impressive to me. But, it's tough for Philadelphia's offense. Go up there, okay. Here's, Matt Judon and Josh Uche and all these, New England style defensive. They got safeties and corners everywhere. Like, it's a good matchup. And then, look, Cincinnati and Cleveland, whether Joe Burrow plays or not plays, we're going to find out an awful lot about that division week one, whether it's Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, Pittsburgh and San Francisco, Cincinnati, Cleveland. Like, those are huge, huge matchups. And it's week one. Anything can happen. It doesn't dictate anything. But those are some of the games, I know I'm going to be paying close attention to, that week one.
Baldy, what's crazy about that New England game, they're at home. You talk about all the Brady hype and all that stuff. They're only a 3.5-point underdog. And I'm like, Philly coming in after the season they had and with the way that they're loaded, but it speaks to what you're talking about. I think some of these books realize, hey, in New England defense, this may be a closer game. I looked at that the other day and I kind of scratched my head and said, 3.5? Eagles, they should be a 7-point, 6-point, 7-point favorite in that game.
Well, I mean, it says, okay, Bill Belichick has had 8 months to get ready for this. Well, since the schedule came out, so 4 months since the schedule came out to get ready for the Eagles offense. He knows he's got all the pieces in place. All right, they've upgraded certain things. They've got everything in place. Go get Christian Gonzalez. You got all these safeties. Like, what's the blueprint? What's the game plan to contain Jalen Hurts and to contain a very talented deep passing game, quarterback runs, quarterback scrambles? Like, I can't wait to see how the Patriots defend this Eagles offense, which basically was putting up close to 30 points every game last year. Like, I think New England will have a pretty good answer for it. It'll be one of those games you just really look forward to breaking down come that Sunday night.
It's going to be great. Baldy, you ready?
I'm ready, brother. I'm ready.
Are you ready? I'm ready. It's been a long off season, guys. We've talked about a lot of stuff. A lot of things have transpired. But this is what we live for. And I say Baldy, and Jason on this podcast, this is what we live for. We live for the games. We live for the competition. We live for the Sundays, chock full of action, and we're here. So next week, it's all about game week. We'll be talking about other games and breaking down other games as we get ready for the first start of the NFL season. Baldy, man, great job as always. Have a great weekend. Get a little rest because it's about to be busy for you, my friend. It's about to get busy. All right, my man.
Sure is. All right, Carl. Thank you.
Take care.
Talk to you next week.
Everybody take care. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you guys next week in the Huddle.